Hey there traders, welcome to episode number 1 of the StockBandit.tv. It's great to have you here, and I hope that we're going to give you something that you can take with you this week in your trading with this video. So in this episode, what we're going to do is take a look at the big picture conditions, and we're going to run through those and take a look at the major averages, and that'll give us some glimpse of what's taking place ahead of the coming trading week. And what that does is it gives us a good feel for what's happening out there in the market, and it lets us know how we might need to respond to those conditions as traders. So without further delay, let's get it on. We're going to start off with a look at the NASDAQ here, and what we have is a couple of things that are at play. Now, number one, we obviously have this trading range that's been in effect for the majority of the past 8 or 9 weeks. We spent a couple of days outside it to the downside. This past week we spent a few days above it on the upside, and now we've fallen back into this range. We're also coming off a pretty good correction that preceded this range. So what do we do here, and what's the play? Well, really what we've got to keep in mind is in the near term, take a look at this good solid advance and then kind of the pullback that's been taking place. It's been kind of gradual and steady, and what we've seen is nice expansion in volume on this last little bounce, and then we've seen over the past few days volume has been tapering off as this market sort of pulls back slightly. And so that is actually encouraging action. To see an upside breakout from a trading range only lead to a pullback in price back into the trading range by itself is not a real encouraging thing. But given the fact that this nice run up has only been followed by a modest pullback, that still opens the door for some stability to be found here in the near term and possibly another turn higher. And so that's what we're going to be on the lookout for in the coming days. And there are a lot of individual stocks that are kind of mimicking this sort of bull flag type of look here. And what's going to happen is if you see that upper trend line of that flag area get broken to the upside, then that's the next technical buy point for this market and many stocks that resemble this pattern. Moving on to the S&P 500. Same situation here. Been spending the majority of the past several weeks within this trading range. You've been kind of bound in price as we kind of zigzag back and forth, but this range has gotten narrower in the past several weeks. And what we've done is see a nice rally to end 2008 and then sort of this pullback into early 2009. We have yet to come down and test this support near the 850 zone. Although we could, that's certainly possible, but once again, this pullback here over the past few days has come on diminishing volume, and so that's encouraging. You want to see light volume selling, and then you want to see that followed by heavy volume buying. And so we'll be watching for a turn higher with some improved volume bars in the days ahead. If we don't get it, then what it's likely going to do is sort of sentence this market back into this trading range that we've been bound by for so long, and that range may just simply get extended for a little bit longer duration. And so that's really the worst thing that's at play here right now. We have not seen any major change of character in the past few days as this market has pulled back, so that's an encouraging thing, but we need to find some stability pretty soon and then turn and rally on decent volume from that area of support. And then finally, taking a look at the Dow Jones Industrials. This is only 30 stocks in this index, and so it is the least important to me among these three averages for that very reason. It's only 30 stocks. So major news or major moves in just one or two of these stocks can actually have a pretty good impact, whereas the S&P 500 is, of course, 500 stocks, and the NASDAQ has a couple of thousand. So what we want to do is get the best big picture view that we can possibly have, but we've got to include the Dow for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's the oldest index. Number two, it is the one that most people are familiar with. When you turn on the nightly news, this is the index that they're going to be talking about. They're going to say what the Dow did today, and that's when people talk about the market. Generally, they're referring to this, although true traders know better that it's more S&P 500 and NASDAQ. But nonetheless, sorry for that slight detour here. For the Dow, still sitting in this big trading range here. We did break out briefly last week and then have since slipped back into that range. So sort of the same situation here, although volume here a little bit different. We saw some increased volume on the initial sell-off move last week on Wednesday, but on Thursday and Friday this market slid lower and volume diminished. And so what we're going to need to see here once again is sort of find that near-term support. We need to stop short of that and then turn higher from there and get this index back on the move as well. If the S&P 500 goes and the NASDAQ goes, you can bet that the Dow is likely to follow. So we're going to keep all these indices in mind and see if these highs that were set last week can be challenged on the next bounce, and more importantly, if volume can kick in on that next bounce to help confirm that there's some real buying taking place. If not, then this market remains one that's likely to stay range bound and therefore is not easily trusted for trades that last anything longer than just a few hours. And so keep that in mind in the days ahead. So there we go. And as I wrap up this episode, I want to thank you again for watching. Be sure and leave a comment on the page down below this video, and be sure and post your feedback. I'd love to hear what you think. And if there's a topic that you'd like to see covered here, send it my way. You can use the contact page here on the site. Look at the top right of any page and you'll see a link to it, and I'll try to add that topic to the list. Be sure and subscribe to the free email list in the sidebar, and we can keep you in the loop. And until next time, trade well out there, and I'll see you soon with another episode of the StockBandit.tv.